hot topic for content creators. This is where I pitch a hot topic to you, and then you turn around, create your own content on said topic. Representation in fiction. Representation in fiction, and the subject that I would like to focus on for this conversation revolves around the concept of the self-insert, as well as the overall need to see oneself portrayed in a character. Now, I'm coming from two angles here. The concept of the self-insert refers to the writer's point of view and the need to see oneself portrayed in a character has to do specifically with how the consumer experiences a work of fiction, which could refer to someone who is reading a piece of literature, watching a movie or a show, etc. Now, if you have ever heard a woman say, "That's literally me. That's literally me," and they were watching, something along the lines of Sex in the City, let's just say. Well, first off, red flag, gentlemen, red flag. But more importantly, that encapsulates the concept of characterization being a fictional representation of the audience of the audience in which the work itself is tailored towards. In this case, let's just say we're talking about toxic women and metrosexual men. This is an example of what's called writing to market. Writing to market is when writers create works that intentionally cater to a specific market or demographic. Usually, this is a pre-existing market that may be trending. Think back to the Twilight saga and when that work came out. Suddenly, every 30-something-year-old female author was suddenly interested in writing urban fantasy romance. Okay. However, right to market may also tap into emerging markets, where writers aim to capitalize upon certain subcultures or lifestyles that have yet to go mainstream. Next thing you know, all the character tropes from the Sex in the City show are now in vogue, if you will. Coincidentally, women all across America were suddenly more comfortable sharing intimate details about their private affairs, which subsequently seemed to be right around the same time that the dating scene was becoming more and more insufferable, to the point where no bachelor was safe from exploitation and or public humiliation. But I digress. One thing I've noticed is that when people consume nothing but right to market type fiction, they can become quite accustomed, let's just say, to certain character tropes and qualities that they themselves personally resonate with, or at least they would like to think that they do. One issue that tends to arise with this kind of consumer is that they will recognize specific character traits and automatically associate those traits with certain qualities, meaning that any character that deviates from the norm in which those consumers have become accustomed to may cause them to become triggered because the character no longer reflects their personal worldview. They'll use made-up words like problematic to describe characters that fail to meet their standard for narcissistic supply. They may resort to calling the artists other words and names that end with ism or ist. They may even go as far as to say that the artist is anti this or anti that, making claims or outright accusing them of something called hate speech, which is not a real thing, but is something that's often perpetuated by particular organizations often associated with real-world political manipulation. I can't help but think of the ADL when such matters come up in conversation. However, thanks to the First Amendment of our Constitution, a work of art does not have to placate to any specific audience, and individuals have the right to express their artistic vision through this fictional medium to their heart's content. In other words, it's not the responsibility of artists to prop up a mirror so that certain individuals may appreciate their own appearance. You know, the mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all kind of bullshit. See also propaganda, which isn't always meant to demonize, but may be used to create something called the halo effect. Now, on the flip side of that, I would also say any artist who creates in order to flatter themselves aren't actually making art as much as they are engaging in what's called a vanity project. This is where the concept of the self-insert becomes relevant to our conversation here, because a vanity project is a piece of work that is intentionally made in the creator's image, either to elevate their status in the public eye or advocate for the creator's personal beliefs on their behalf. One egregious example of this would be to picture an artist in the form of a soy latte sipping Wojak pointing at their own self-proclaimed work of art that sensationalizes the aftermath of a world in which people fail to recycle their disposables. Of course, the fact that the artist just so happens to be a political activist in favor of environmentalism is something that you, as the consumer, need not be concerned with, and in no way, shape, fashion, or form should that negatively impact the way in which you appreciate their work. Just turn the other cheek, some would say. There's no way their work was meant to be a form of indoctrination, okay? I know this guy. He's a friend of mine. He would never try to brainwash you or even harm a fly. But now, I'm wondering what you guys have to say on this matter. What's your take on the concept of self-inserts and the need to see oneself portrayed in a work of fiction? Did I miss something? Perhaps you have some examples that you'd like to share with me so I can turn around and take a good hard look at it and see for myself as to whether or not it comes across as a self-insert. Who knows? Maybe I'll even be in the mood to poke some fun at it at the expense of the so-called work of art.